Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday, December, what is it, 27th? John Aravosis here. I'm trying to go live on Instagram and it's being evil. Come on, Instagram, go live. Go live. There we go. Instagram is live. Anyway, how are you guys doing? It is Wednesday, back from Christmas. Well, not back, still at my mom's, but here for another 2 weeks. Let me go live on TikTok here. 1 second here, and then we are ready. Hello. Oh, Lviv. Hi, Karen. What are you doing in Lviv? Yep. There we go. Although I think you said you're in Ivano-Frankivsk or whatever, right? Normally? So maybe that makes sense that you're in Lviv. Anyway, hello, TikTokers. Hey, Robert Kelly, and others on TikTok. Welcome, everybody. Oh, boy. Oh, hey, Greg. How's everybody doing? Yesterday was a busy day. My nephew was in town. We were cooking all day. He was making moussaka for us. So by the time he left, like I was exhausted and there was no time to prepare for the show. So I figured I'd extend Christmas one more day. Anyway, oh, Rod's in Lviv. I thought Karen was in. No, but I thought Karen was in Ivano. Oh, I see. Rod's in Lviv. Okay, never mind. Hey, TikTokers. Ah, how's everybody? I hope everybody had a good Christmas. Whoever is celebrates. I shouldn't say is Christian because the Japanese celebrate Christmas now. So who knows? Whoever celebrates Christmas, I should say. But we had fun. We had lots of people, lots of like nice, noisy Christmas day, which is nice for us. Not in Lviv. Okay. Hello. Um, anyway, how are folks doing? We're gonna, as always, we'll wait a minute or two just to let folks kind of fill in or filter in and join us, and then I'll get rolling here. Ah, interesting little thing here. That is so weird. Oh, thank you. Who was that? Oh, that was Cassandra. Thank you, Cassandra. Sorry, I'm looking at this. YouTube keeps adding my numbers up wrong. KFC is a big deal in Japan. Yes, I just read about that last week. Hey, John, thank you. Kentucky Fried Chicken is a huge deal in Japan. It's an American fried chicken chain. And apparently in 1972, I was reading the article, 1972, some Americans living in Japan, didn't know what to do for Christmas. They couldn't find turkey, which is our New Year's. Well, Christmas, I guess. They couldn't find turkey, which is our traditional dish for Thanksgiving, not for Christmas. And they went to Kentucky Fried Chicken because they were like, "Oh, this is a bird." And KFC, the company, Kentucky Fried Chicken, finally decided to start advertising in Japan as like the Christmas thing or whatever. And the Japanese are always big on picking up foreign cultural stuff. So they kind of glommed on to Christmas and Kentucky Fried Chicken. And now it's this big thing every Christmas in Japan to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and buy the special Christmas blah, blah. It's very funny. It cracks me up because we haven't been to Kentucky Fried Chicken in years. Thank you, Carol. You wouldn't catch me dead in Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, like I used to love them. Now I'm kind of creeped out by them. Anyway, very weird. And yes, it's very funny. But anyway, welcome back, folks. We'll wait another half minute and then I'll get rolling here. I just like to give people enough time to sort of filter in. Hey, Buppo and Gothenburg. Um, any, yeah, thank you, Jeremy. I'm visiting mom for another week and a half, and I'm back in DC finally. I'm over my cold, but it definitely left me tired. So that's, I mean, at least I'm over it. Like physically, but I'm still really exhausted. Thank you, Chris. I had a 2 week cold, very annoying. It happened while I was in Arizona, which I was not thrilled about. But what do you do? All right, Joe. All right, guys, I'll get rolling. It seems our trolls aren't. I mean, not that I'm opposed, but I feel like our trolls aren't here yet today. What's going on, mods? What did we do? Maybe we did something right if the trolls aren't here. You know, a celebrity in my own right on TikTok. I'm not sure about that. I'm not a celebrity until the trolls show up. Thank you, Swan person. I feel like I'm not. It is kind of funny. Like I feel like I'm not as popular. As the trolls here. It's kind of a goofy thing. Actually, it goes back to I think people in general, where people it's sort of like movie stars or people in theater or any of you really that you take the you take criticism to heart, but you don't take praise, right? So like 10 people could praise you and you'll be like, okay, thank you. One person criticizes you and you're like, oh, right? And it's sort of how that whole negative thing sort of takes power on you. Audio is in and out for you guys. Okay, you know what? I'm going to refresh the page again for YouTube. YouTube, very strange All right, how's that, guys? I refreshed the page. See if that helps for my microphone on YouTube. TikTok, I know the mic's fine for you guys. YouTubers, is the mic being better? And then we'll get rolling here. Yep. A little more water. It's really weird. It just it's well, the thing that's weird is my microphone, like, I'm on my iPad with you TikTokers, but I'm on my laptop with YouTube and stuff. And the weird thing is that it's fine with you all, but on my laptop, it's bad. Which makes me think it's the service. Thank you, Kronos. Merry Christmas to you too. It makes me think it's the service and not just you know what I mean? Because it's the same. I mean, what I mean is the service I'm using to stream YouTube because it's the same thing here, right? All right, guys, let me get rolling here. So, welcome everybody. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. It is my nightly show I do at 5 o'clock Central Time or 6 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm normally broadcasting from Washington, D.C. Been visiting mom in Chicago for the last month plus, but I will be back in D.C. in about a week and a half. The way the show works is I go through the latest news. Thank you, or Life, yep, for the gifts. I go through the latest news, and then I take your guys' questions. Um, we've been covering Ukraine since the war started, so going on almost 2 years now. But I also started covering the Gaza too with when that broke out. Also doing some coverage of American election stuff. Not as much yet, but that will get busier as we head into election season. Still going to keep. Thank you, Eva. Still going to keep covering Ukraine, but I want to broaden this to do sort of news overall, although it clearly is going to be news from a U.S. interest because that's who I am. I can't help that, but try to keep it interesting for the rest of you too. What else? Oh, so yeah, I'll start with Ukraine, then we'll do Gaza. As always, please do keep the gifts coming on TikTok and YouTube and elsewhere. I always tell folks, I do this for free and I do it full time. For the last 2 years, this has been great though. I've been doing this full time with my lives for you guys, my videos on TikTok throughout the day. Thank you, Martin. And adventures. And your guys' gifts are how I literally pay the bills and been able to keep doing this. Not getting rich, but I've been pretty good most months. Thank you, Magical. Most months we do a little better than breaking even. Some months we don't. But what did I say? We? There's no we. There's me, and my dog. Thank you, Ventures. Thank you, 60. But your gifts do matter, so thank you, guys. Please keep coming. All right, let me get rolling here. So, Ukraine. Yeah, let's start with Ukraine. So it's day 671, depending how you count it, of Putin's 3-day special military operation. I found that different sites have different counters for how many days since the invasion, which makes no sense. So I ask Siri, and Siri tells me, and she's within a day. Siri says 671 days. There's a story just out in Politico that's really annoying. Politico is a very good American news source for politics in Washington. I mean, very credible, very objective. And this is their story. I'm going to read you a couple paragraphs of it, okay? Very on kind of what's going on with Washington and the war. Thank you, Super Hornet. With U.S. and European aid to Ukraine now in serious jeopardy. First of all, I didn't know European aid. Like, when was European aid in serious jeopardy, right? We knew the U.S. stuff was getting weird with the Republicans, but when was European aid in serious jeopardy? I had not heard that, right? Orban, okay, fair enough. Orban, but he's been a Guterman saying Orban, who's the leader in Hungary, who's a Putin stooge, but he's been causing problems all around. You know what I mean? Like, the Orban thing doesn't sound new to me, but maybe Orban being worse than before. Listen to this. With U.S. and European aid now in serious jeopardy, the Biden administration and European officials are quietly shifting their focus from supporting Ukraine's goal of total victory. Pardon me while I vomit here. We're going to talk about this in a second. Their goal of supporting Ukraine's goal of total victory. When the hell have we in the West supported Ukraine's goal of total victory? Right? The Brits kind of did. America never did. France and Germany never did. Canada just kind of went along with the rest of us. What, supporting Ukraine's goal of total victory? We never supported Ukraine's goal of total victory. I mean, we didn't. Like, it's absolutely it's ridiculous. But in any case, we're shifting now. This is what bothers me. Well, I was just going to say, Julia Kivi raised a good point. Estonia did. The Baltic countries supported Ukraine's goal of total victory. Poland did. Right? A number of countries did too. But the main powers, we never supported their goal of total victory. What worries me about this article is, I'm going to keep reading you the paragraphs, but this is an article in Politico I'm reading you guys, saying that basically, up until now, Washington and our top allies were totally focused on Ukraine's total victory, but now, not so much. And I'm looking at this. Thank you, James. I don't know if you meant that as a question on YouTube. If you did, feel free just to ask one. But thank you either way. But now Washington's no longer focused on Ukraine's victory, is what they're saying. And it's like, we were never. All right. I need to do a little bit of my normal screed here, since anybody who's new may not have heard this before. But whenever I talk about this on TikTok, on YouTube, I should say, it pisses TikTokers get it. The YouTubers get pissed off. Not actually YouTubers. The Twitterers get upset at me when I talk about this. YouTube's fine. TikTok, totally fine. Twitter gets very upset when I criticize Biden. But Biden never wanted Ukraine to win. It was literally a week ago. It was over Christmas, or right before Christmas, because I remember I wanted to do a big thing with you guys, and it just sort of came up at a bad time. Biden, in the last 2 weeks, finally, for the first time, said he wanted Ukraine to win the war. Never said it before. Never said it before. Please don't get, and you guys are pretty good about this. Like I said, the Twitter people all freak out. I am not, look, I've got my biases. Everyone's got their own biases, right? Our own opinions. I'm not a big fan of stupid people. You all who are here probably know that. And what I mean is people who just play games with the truth. I don't like liars. Like, I can disagree with you. Just don't lie and be mean and that kind of stuff, right? And too many people, partisans on both sides, mind you, yeah, I don't know what's going on with the, you know what? I could always unplug my microphone if I have to. Hold on, not for you guys. You know what? I'm going to change the mic here, and we're just going to do, let's do blue MacBook microphone. Sorry, guys. For you guys on YouTube, let me know how it is. Obviously, it's distance, but it's hopefully not going to play as many games as my microphone is down here. So what happened with Biden was he never wanted Ukraine to win. Now, this is where I'm asking you to put on your big boy pants, your big boy and big girl pants. Worse. Thank you, Blue. Who is that? Blue Ariel, I think. Thank you, guys. All right, I'm putting the audio back on. There's only so much I can do with the audio here. All right. Because I say Biden never wanted Ukraine to win, doesn't mean he wanted Ukraine to lose. There's a difference. And this is where I'm saying, like, you got to be nuanced, guys. Biden never wanted Ukraine to win, but he never wanted Russia to win either. And that's the thing. Biden, and this is along with France and Germany too, they're the three big bad guys here, the three most important countries and the big bad guys. Thank you, Critter. But they didn't want Russia to win. The whole reason Biden got involved with this, the whole reason Biden wanted to, sort of took the, but I would say the U.S. really did take the lead. The U.S. took the lead in corralling the world to support Ukraine. We really, and I give Biden credit for that. The reason he did it is because the U.S. and the world was very worried about, I would say the U.S. in particular was very worried about what happens next if Putin is able to capture Ukraine. So we did not want Putin to capture Ukraine. But Biden, I keep saying France and Germany because it's easier than saying Macron and Schultz, but France and Germany, they didn't want Ukraine to win the war either. They didn't want Russia to lose. If Russia lost, they thought that Russia is a nuclear power. Thank you, Cheryl. And as a nuclear power, it would be a disaster if Russia were to lose the war. Now, Putin, I should say Biden, by the way, made this clear multiple times. At the beginning of the war, you can Google and check it out. But I went off, I'm very annoyed with Biden. I went off repeatedly with Biden about the whole issue of, oh my God, nuclear war. If we give, let me see here. All right, I'm turning off the auto adjust microphone volume. Now you guys have to, sorry, this is the last time I'm going to try to set this because I'm trying to set this for YouTube, but it's kind of screwing up. How is the microphone volume for YouTube now? Sorry, guys, on TikTok. It keeps screwing up on YouTube. All right, this is the last one I'm fixing here. How is it now? I can move it up or down, and then we're going back to the computer, and that's going to be it for now. I know you TikTok is fine, guys. Yep, but we're having an issue on YouTube where I'm streaming over here. Let me see here. Sounds good now? Okay, then we're leaving it where it is. All right. No more microphone checks, other than if it goes silent, obviously warn me. All right. So Biden from the beginning was talking about nuclear war, World War III. Remember World War III? I kept bringing up how Biden kept talking about World War III and how in America, World War III is a euphemism. It means the end of the world. World War III does not mean the war that comes after World War II. When you mention World War III in America, you mean the apocalypse, the end of the world. Everybody will die. So Biden kept talking about we can't go to war with Russia. It would be World War III, and kept talking about how we shouldn't give them. I think this came up with regards to giving them the aircraft. Remember, we didn't want to give them the Polish aircraft, the MiGs, back at the beginning. And Biden brought up World War III. Well, I brought up early on, and I think I'm right about this. Biden is very worried about what happens if Putin loses the war. He is very worried about what happens, particularly if Putin loses territory in southern Ukraine. I'm losing the pins in my shirt here, by the way. Crimea, territory in southern Ukraine that the Russians stole in 2014, and then you've got all of this they stole the last 2 years. Very worried about what happens, and he thinks there's a chance of Putin doing something nuclear. Clear. He hasn't said it publicly. It's clear from what he said. He thinks there's a chance of Putin doing something nuclear if he loses Crimea. I don't. I also think that some risks are worth taking, and I don't mean the risk of nuclear war, but I kind of do mean in that. If you're not willing to risk nuclear war, then let's just give up. Right? Risking nuclear war doesn't mean, oh my God, you're a madman. There's a chance of nukes, and you're willing to risk that? No. Risking nuclear war means, in my case, so there's no reason to have nukes because you're never going to use them, right? There's no reason for us to have a military because you're never going to use them because you don't want to ever risk having a war with Russia. Well, the best way to not risk having a war with Russia is just to give up, right? Because if we challenge them on anything, the Middle East right now, there's a risk of war with Russia. Frankly, even Ukraine right now, there's a risk of war with Russia, right? I mean, we're already risking a nuclear war with Russia, so to speak, in Ukraine by giving Ukraine weapons that they're using to kill Russians, right? But it's an acceptable risk. And that's why I get annoyed when people say, oh, it's risking nuclear war. That's not how it works. We risk nuclear war every day, so to speak. That's the whole nature of politics and war. Putin got in Biden's head and convinced him that it was oh so dangerous to challenge Putin, and we better not let Putin lose this war. But we didn't want him to win it. And that's where you come around to, anyway, 2 weeks ago. And the last 2 weeks, Biden finally came out and said that Ukraine needs to win. And I remember hearing this and going, what? What is that? Like, what does that even mean? Right? I just don't even know what that means. Because what changed that Biden's suddenly saying Ukraine needs to win? Well, now you get this Politico article. And what really is pissing me off now, Biden, I think, said in the last 2 weeks that Ukraine needs to win the war. I think he said it because he's given up. That basically this is a preparation for the negotiations with Russia. He's talking tougher, right? Ukraine needs to win as preparation for the negotiations, which is the really crappy part of this. So anyway, listen to this. I'm going to start again with the article. This is the article from Politico that got me talking. That came out. With the U.S. and European aid to Ukraine now in serious jeopardy, the Biden administration and European officials are quietly shifting their focus from supporting Ukraine's goal of total victory, total bullshit, over Russia, to improving its position in an eventual negotiation to end the war, according to a Biden administration official and a European diplomat based in Washington. Such a negotiation would likely mean giving up parts of Ukraine to Russia. A shift to now, the good part, this further analysis, I think, is actually good. Listen to this. A shift to defense. So what they're saying is that basically, think of them, what Ukraine should do now is shift to defending what they've got. In other words, Russia's holding on to all of this. Ukraine should stop trying to get its land back, and Ukraine should just set up its defenses and basically defend everything to stop Russia from advancing, is what sort of Washington and the Europeans are now telling Ukraine. Politico says a shift to defense could buy Ukraine the time it needs to eventually force Putin into an acceptable compromise. How? Right? I mean, how? I just don't get, like, why would Putin? That's bullshit. Okay, so listen to this. It's very likely that going to a defensive posture would allow the Ukrainians to conserve resources while making future Russian progress look unlikely, says Anthony Pfaff, an intelligence expert at the U.S. Army War College. I think he's correct. He's saying that if Ukrainians dig in rather than attack, it means the Russians will probably have very little chance of getting more land, and the Russians will start to realize that now it's a stalemate. But it's a stalemate where Russia controls 17% of Ukraine. It's a pretty good stalemate for Russia. That's what he's saying. The European diplomat based in Washington said that the European Union is also raising the threat of expediting Ukraine's membership in NATO to put the Ukrainians in the best situation possible to negotiate with Moscow. Okay, first of all, that's a crock of shit. Um, NATO is never going to expedite Ukraine's membership. We did it for Sweden and Finland, but we're not doing it for Ukraine. I mean, we're not. There's just no way we're going to do it for them. Um, Hungary is going to say no, for sure. Who knows what the rest of I don't even know what Turkey and the rest are going to say. Hungary's going to say no. Hungary works for Putin. There is no way they're going to let him in. So it's not a credible threat. Second of all, let me read you this paragraph again. I read this paragraph and I hear something disgusting. Listen to this paragraph. This is from Politico again. The European diplomat based in Washington said that the Union is also raising the threat of expediting Ukraine's membership in NATO to put the Ukrainians in the best situation possible to negotiate with Moscow. That could mean two things. That could mean that the European diplomat says, we want to give Ukraine membership in NATO as soon as possible because that'll give them a stronger bargaining position against Russia, right? Stronger. Or what it says is, we want to expedite, this is what the article actually says, we want to expedite, thank you, Critter, Ukraine's application to NATO to put them in a better bargaining position so they can negotiate away membership in NATO. This paragraph to me sounds like this one European diplomat at least is saying that the idea is to expedite Ukraine and NATO to make it look like it's going ahead really fast. Thank you, Dawn, on a fast track, just like we've got for Sweden and Finland, so that Putin freaks out and caves a little bit more in exchange for Ukraine promising not to join NATO. I think that's what's saying. The problem with that is, and there is a problem with this, man. Quick sip of water. The problem with that is, if Ukraine doesn't join NATO, there are very few ways to stop this war. Thank you, Pam. This war is going to happen again. Russia wants all of Ukraine. The thing you've got to remember is this is not a territorial dispute. This is not a dispute over a border. This is not, Ukraine and Russia were, thank you, Tom. Ukraine and Russia were fighting over a little piece of land that both countries have historically claimed. That's not what's going on here. It's not like, let's give Russia the little land they're claiming and Russia will go away. Russia is claiming all of Ukraine. Russia thinks Ukraine doesn't exist as a country. They think it's fake. Okay? They think it's fake. The Russians have said that this was what I've told you guys before, but it blew my mind when I read it. Or I think I heard the Russians say it. The Russians have said that the Ukrainians are actually Russians. They just don't realize it yet. And it's Russia's role to educate the Ukrainians about the fact that they don't exist, right? I mean, like, could you be more imperialistic, right? Russia wants to commit genocide. I mean, they are, of course, but they want to commit genocide in Ukraine. They want to wipe Ukraine off the map. They've already kidnapped a lot of the Ukrainian children, right? Ukrainians say up 15 to 20,000. Depends kind of who you read, whether it's 10,000, whether it's 20,000, but it's in that range of children the Russians have kidnapped and tried to turn them into Russians. That's going to happen. If this war ends in 5 years, Putin will be back to take more land. It's what he did last time. 2014, he came and oh God, please, Greg, you aren't serious. Yeah, about that. Put that question to rest. Yeah, she stormed off in a huff because she got mad at somebody and went crazy. Yeah, don't even go there with that. So in any case, the Putin thing, yeah. So he's going to invade again in 5 years, or whenever he can get enough of a military to invade again. It's what he did back in 2014. He invades in 2014 with Crimea. Then, right, sort of sets itself up again, builds up the military, invades again in 2022. He can do the same thing in 5 years, 10 years, whenever it is. That's just it. There is no way to stop this war from happening again unless, A, Ukraine joins NATO, because then Russia would be invading a NATO country. And for all of Russia's bluster, they've never attacked NATO. And we know this now. They love to threaten the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. They love to threaten Poland, right? Now they're threatening Finland because Finland joined NATO and the Russians are pissed, right? But they never attack because they can't attack because it's NATO. NATO can destroy Russia and the Russians. So if Ukraine were to join NATO, that would be great. That's not going to happen, I think. So if it doesn't happen, what happens? There's only two ways, I think, of two. There's only one way of stopping Russia that I can think of. Reasonable way. I mean, sure, if Ukraine had nukes, Russia won't invade again, but that's not going to happen, right? One reasonable way is that NATO puts troops, peacekeepers all over Ukraine. That NATO troops are stationed all over Ukraine as tripwires. And basically, if the Russians were to invade again, they'd have to kill NATO troops. And by killing NATO troops, right, they'd kill Polish troops, they'd kill American troops, they would declare war on all of us. Thank you, Ted. That's the only way I see, short of NATO, Ukraine joining NATO, that we could stop Russia from invading again. But this idea that we're going to have some kind of a compromise where the Russians are simply going to, we're going to give Russia some land in Ukraine and the Russians are never going to attack again. Why wouldn't they attack again? Right? I mean, actually, look at this, guys. Within 2 years, we're now apparently talking about giving Russia land that they took. It took Russia 2 years. From Russia's perspective, that's great. Thank you, Jezek. Right? Why wouldn't Russia do this again? Invade, and within 2 years, the West is going to get tired. Sure, they lost 300,000 men. Putin doesn't care about that. They're a dictatorship, right? Dictators don't care about losing 300,000 men. So why not do it again? Really, really screwed up. Anyway, all right. Let me do. Sorry, that went very long, but it was a big story. I'll sort of pick and choose the rest of the news. Ukraine celebrated Christmas on December 25th for the first time. They shifted Christmas from January 7th to December 25th, thank you, Mustard, as part of their cultural breaking with Russia. Russia launched more drones and cruise missiles against Ukraine overnight. Ukraine shot most of them down, which is good. Russia shelled a railway station in Kherson, which is here. This is Kherson, recently liberated by Ukraine a few months ago. It was north of the river. The Russians shelled a railway station as people were trying to leave. Injured a number of, let me look here. What was the 140 civilians were gathered to leave. The blast killed one policeman and injured 4 other people. Shockingly, not more people were killed. On Christmas Day, Russia claimed it had finally secured Marinka, a small town west of Donetsk. I'm knocking my mic over. Hello. Sorry there. Hey, Rob, 1 second. I'll grab that in a second. Marinka is a little bit west of Donetsk here. The Russians claim to have finally gotten it around Christmas. Not clear if they have. Maybe they have. The Ukrainians are kind of vacillating a little bit, saying they haven't taken all of it. Also, Vlad this weekend told us that he had heard, my friend Vlad in Ukraine, that the Ukrainians were having a very bad time, or the Russians may have even taken Andriivka, which is just north of Donetsk. So these are all sort of suburbs of Donetsk here. From what I'm reading, neither town is the end of the world, but for Russia to be making advances in the middle of winter is not good, right? This is the bad time of year. This is the really difficult time to be fighting in the winter with the cold and the ice and the sludge, the wetness and everything is just nasty. Russia shouldn't be advancing now, and if they're advancing, that's a bad sign. So that gives Russia a little more morale, and it hurts Ukraine a little bit for that to happen. Let me find a little more here. Oh, this is okay. So some good stories in the last few days. Let me give you some good news too. Ukrainians destroyed a Russian landing ship this weekend. I don't know if it was Christmas Day. It might have been Christmas Day itself, but a large Russian ship in port in Feodosia, which I don't think it's on. Is it? I think it says on my map actually. It is on my map. Feodosia is over here, so it's in Crimea. Okay, over here, very near the Kerch Bridge. The Kerch Bridge, right? That bridge they keep attacking that connects to Russia. So Feodosia is in port here. The Ukrainians blew up and sank 100-meter, 300-foot, 110-meter, 300-foot Russian ship. Big deal. It was carrying ammunition. It was carrying weapons. Boom. They believe it may have been carrying Iranian drones. It may also have been carrying, Grad rockets and artillery shells. Big deal. Now, the satellite imagery showed the ship totally sunk, totally destroyed, which is great. There were 80 Russian naval personnel on board, more or less. 33 are missing. Not too many killed, it sounds like, 19 wounded. Anyway, this was a big deal. This is a very big deal. Great thing across the board. They believe the Ukrainians used either the French or the British cruise missiles they've got. The French are called Scalp. The British ones are called Storm Shadows. They're both very similar, but they think they used the cruise missiles and to blow them up, which was great. Anyway, big deal, very important. As I always say with these things, it's not like one attack is going to change the war, but it's still a big deal. This was very good. Let me see here. Oh, yeah, the other thing this weekend, really quick, and then I'll get to Rob here. The other thing was this weekend, Ukraine shot down 5 advanced Russian fighters. At first it was 3, and now the number is 5. Did I tell you? Maybe it was on Friday. Maybe we talked about this on Friday or a Saturday morning, maybe this came up. But the Su-34 advanced fighter bombers of the Russians, Ukrainians had shot down like 3 of them within an hour, and then by the end of the day, they reported 2 more. They're, I believe, the most advanced Russian fighters, which is great. The Ukrainians, we're not entirely sure how the Ukrainians shot them down, which is interesting. Um, there was some discussion as to whether they were shot down from uh, with using fighter jets or what. Some people are even saying if Ukraine get NATO F-16s, US F-16s already. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. But this was a huge deal. I mean, but what's interesting about it is it raises the question of why. Why now suddenly is Ukraine able to shoot down these 5 advanced Russian fighter jets? Why weren't they able to shoot them down before? Right? What changed? Did they get a new weapon system? Some people say it could be the new Patriot missile system that the Ukrainians got from Germany, and maybe getting this additional weapon system let the Ukrainians like move the missile into an area the Russians weren't expecting. That's what Mustard's saying here, the third Patriot. But it still intrigues me that the Russians clearly weren't ready for this, and that's what surprises me. Right? You don't shoot down 5 planes unless something went seriously wrong that day for the Russians. Now, oops, my mouse is disappearing. Don't do that. Rob is asking over on YouTube with a YouTube question. Ukraine like Gaza and Israel like Russia. People have asked that question. The problem is, thank you, Carol. First, there's a couple of problems with that. First of all, what Rob is, let me read Rob's question. I always super chat questions, which are the questions people pay for on YouTube. I always answer those questions because, of course, they are a contribution to my work, which I'm very thankful. So what Rob is saying with that? Oh, come on, I'm trying to get my mouse to come back. Evil mouse. I'm trying to get my mouse to come back. It's now stuck over on my iPad. What Rob's question means is Ukraine the good guy and Russia and Israel's the bad guy? Like Russia invaded Ukraine, Israel invades Gaza, right? The problem is 2 problems, I think. One, the issue is so controversial, you're never going to agree. You're never going to have people agree on it, ever. I mean, don't even think people are going to agree on it. So, meaning some people are going to say absolutely it's the same, and other people are going to go, of course it's not the same. It's just too controversial from the issue, unfortunately. I would argue that I guess you'd have to argue why you think they're the same, and then maybe I could poke it apart. But in Ukraine's case, put it this way. Israel and Gaza is actually Israel and the Palestinians, Israel and the Arabs is what that conflict is. That conflict's been going on for 75 years. That conflict, nobody's got clean hands. It's an expression we use in the law when you say clean hands, meaning you come into meaning one party's guilty and the other party's innocent, right? That the other party, I did nothing wrong. I didn't think of little kids fighting, right? I didn't instigate the fight. I had no role in it. That's clean hands. Dirty hands is, well, right? There's 2 stories. There's 2 sides to the story. The Middle Eastern story, from my perspective, there's 2 sides to it. You've had Israel beating up on the Palestinians or the Arabs for 75 years, and you've had the Arabs, Palestinians beating up on the Israelis for 75 years. And you've had both. And I think anybody who tells you it's not 2 sides, I think they're wrong. I think they're lying to you. So that's it. The Arab-Israeli conflict has been 2 sides beating up on each other. Both, I think, have unclean hands. And at its core, who's to blame? Hard to say. At its core, because, yeah, the UN came in and they divvied up the land and gave the Israelis and the Palestinians the state, whatever. You go to Ukraine and Russia. Russia just invaded. They just invaded. Ukraine didn't do anything. I mean, Ukraine didn't do anything. There's no unclean hands. There's no, you've got to look at the years going back. Ukraine repeatedly invaded Russia, and now Russia invaded Ukraine. No, There's no history of terrorism of the Ukrainians blowing up the Russians for 75 years. It's just not. So I don't see the battles as being similar. Israel Gaza or Israel Palestinian, whatever you want to call it, and Ukraine Russia, because the Israeli Palestinian battle, complicated as F, and every time you look at who started it, you're going to say, well, yeah, the Israelis attacked Gaza, but the Palestinians attacked on October 7th in Israel. But the Israelis were occupying the West Bank and controlling Gaza. But that's because the Arabs invaded the Israelis. And the Israelis grabbed the land when they were attacked by the Arabs. But the Arabs attacked the Israelis because the UN stepped in with the Brits and the French and carved up the Middle East and gave Israel some land and the Palestinians some land. I mean, right? This back and forth with Russia and Ukraine, there is no back and forth going, well, yeah, the Russians are committing genocide, but you got to understand, no, no. There's just, it is a clear cut battle. Only the most disingenuous people will tell you that, oh yeah, with Ukraine, both sides are to blame. No. It's the Trumpers, the MAGA people who claim two sides are to blame. The Russians claim two sides are to blame. But so I'm personally not a fan of the comparison. I don't think it's a good comparison. Thank you for that. Matt asks, is the loss of material sustainable for Russia and Ukraine? I'm going to assume you mean material, meaning military material, like the weapons, meaning tanks and things like that. You know, I don't know. The bigger problem I keep hearing from people is they're worried about manpower. They're worried about Ukraine having soldiers in the long run versus Russia having soldiers in the long run. That's what I hear. I don't hear people talking as much, just from reading and talking to people, I don't hear them as much saying, gosh, how's Ukraine going to get enough tanks next year? I hear them saying, how's Ukraine going to have enough men next year? Or in 2 years or 3 years versus Russia, which is a country, what do we say, 3.5 times bigger than Ukraine. So that's the bigger issue. Now, Russia, in principle, has a bigger industrial base to build more weapons than Ukraine. Russia, we know they're getting weapons from North Korea. They're getting them from Iran. China, we don't know. Who's Ukraine getting them from now, right? I mean, they've sort of tapped NATO out, and and maybe the U.S. has been tapped out. So I would be, to the degree that we're worried about the material, and we are, I think there is a greater risk of Ukraine not having access to material as Russia. I think Russia's got more access than we do, is what worries me. So there you go. It ain't great. I mean, it ain't great. Let me see a little bit more here. Okay. A little bit of good news on Sweden and NATO. You know that Finland joined NATO recently. Sweden, we're still waiting. Hungary and Turkey need to agree. All NATO countries have to agree unanimously to let a new member in. So we're waiting for Sweden. Turkey, finally, the Foreign Affairs Committee, I think they call it a commission or something, of the Turkish parliament, approved Sweden's membership, and they've now kicked it to the entire parliament. The entire parliament now has to approve it. Then it goes to Erdogan, and then it's done deal for that. And then we got to worry about Hungary next. Hungary has to approve it too, and Hungary literally works with Putin, right? Well, as soon as the Turkish Foreign Affairs Commission or Committee comes out and says, yeah, a couple days ago, we're going to approve, or we approve. It was this week. We approve of Sweden joining NATO. Somebody from the Turkish parliament comes out and says, "Oh, but you got to realize we're not in any hurry. So yeah, it might be going to the whole parliament in a few weeks, but it might not be because we're not in a hurry." So the Turks are still playing games with us. They're still playing games. So I don't know if anything's happening anytime soon with that. Finally, there's a Reuters story that's very confusing, but I'll give you the quick update. Basically, the sanctions are still causing hell with Russia trying to sell oil to India. The article was very confusing as to why, but nonetheless, it is, which is good. What does my shirt say? My shirt is a shirt from Act Blue. So it's something about small dollar donors or something like that. Act Blue, which is a big sort of fundraising tool of the left. But it's one of the only clean shirts I have, and it fits me well. So I figured, what the hell? It's Laundry Day. That's exactly it. Laundry Day is coming. It's one of the only, but it still fits well. So what the heck? Nice black shirt. Israel and Hamas. So In the last couple of days, since we haven't been on since Friday. Oh, and please do keep the gifts. I forgot to keep it. Please keep the gifts coming, guys. Remember, gifts on TikTok, gifts on YouTube. I do this full time. Your gifts help me keep going because they help me pay the bills. Keep doing it, so please do keep them coming here. Why don't we sanction India? Because we're trying to be good friends with India. Thank you, Mark. India being the world's largest democracy, trade. Thank you, Lori. We're trying to keep things happy. So that's why we're not sanctioning. I mean, that's it right there. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Who's it, Donovan? Thank you. So Israel and Gaza. Let's talk about that. Thank you, Lori. There was a peace proposal. Thank you, Timothy. That was put forward by Egypt and Qatar. Qatar is both of these are Arab governments. One is right there off of Israel and Gaza. The other one, Qatar, is in the east, closer to Saudi Arabia. And Qatar has been negotiating. Thank you. I'm nice. I'm nice, Biat. So Qatar and Egypt got together, proposed, or I should say Qatar signed off on it. Egypt proposed a peace proposal to Hamas and Islamic Jihad, who are two of the terrorist groups really running. There's like four at least Palestinian terrorist groups. They're kind of divvied up Gaza. But Hamas is the big one. Palestinian Islamic Jihad is the one. Approached them, presented the ceasefire plan, and really sort of a plan to end the war to them. They said no. Thank you, Marie. Which is interesting because, typically, thank you, Marie, people like to point to Israel as the reason this war keeps going on. And it's not really the case. I mean, really. I mean, at least, again, unclean hands, as I say, both sides. October 7th, there was a ceasefire. Thank you, Cheryl. Hamas broke the ceasefire on October 7th. That's what started the conflict, the most recent one. Then Israel and Hamas reached a ceasefire. Remember when they were exchanging the hostages and everything, of the prisoners and everything? Hamas broke it. That's why the bombing started again. Now Hamas has been offered a ceasefire by the Egyptians and the Qataris. This isn't an Israeli proposal. This is a proposal from Egypt and Qatar, two big Arab governments in the region. And Hamas said no. Because Islamic Jihad said no. You've now got, big surprise, because I've been saying this all along, a much more complicated situation, right? This war is happening because a lot of reasons, including Hamas, which is not going along with peace either. Well, basically what the Egyptians were offering, the Egyptians said that there would be another exchange of hostages and prisoners or whatever, and Hamas would have to step down. And then there would be, in other words, Hamas is the government of Gaza. They're a terrorist group. They're a government of Gaza. The Palestinians originally voted for them. They like to say they're not responsible, but they are. They voted for them. I mean, you voted for what's the internet meme about the face-eating tiger or whatever? You voted for the face-eating tiger, and guess what? He's eating your face. They're acting like a terrorist group, so they stayed in power forever, basically, once they got voted in the parliament. And Hamas doesn't want to leave. So Hamas is opposing to the proposal. I mean, they're not admitting it, but they're opposing to the fact that the proposal says Hamas steps down, and basically a democratic government takes over in Gaza, and they have elections. They were promised, you wouldn't be the Gaza government wouldn't go after you, wouldn't be held responsible, whatever. Hamas is saying no, they're refusing. So just keep this in mind. I'm saying because you know what? There's a lot of reasons peace isn't happening, and one of them is the fact that the Palestinians aren't really on board either. The Israelis may not be on board, but neither are the Palestinians. Now, if I were Hamas, by the way, I think Hamas is doing the right thing for Hamas. If I were Hamas, I'd say no deal, because even in the comments, some of you support the Palestinians. What'll happen if Hamas says no? We're not going to do a ceasefire, right? And the Israelis keep bombing. Who's going to be blamed for it? Who's most of the world going to blame? They're not going to go, well, Hamas didn't agree to the ceasefire. They're going to say Israel's bombing the poor Palestinians, so they're dying, right? That's all that's going to happen. The 90% of the news coverage will be anti-Israel. 90% of the countries around the world will be anti-Israel. The far left will be anti-Israel and protesting in all of our countries. It only helps Hamas to not agree to a deal. That's the problem with sort of this conflict overall. There's no incentive for peace. Maybe there's an incentive for peace on the Israeli side, although I don't think Netanyahu wants it, the president of the Prime Minister of Israel. But on the Palestinian side, what's the incentive? From Hamas, at least, there's no incentive for peace. They're getting, this is great. right? The public relations is terrible for Israel right now. So if I'm Hamas, I want the war to continue because I know Israel's going to get blamed. So anyway, it makes me less than hopeful about what comes next. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken's coming to the region next week. Talk about God knows what. Um, Obviously peace, but I mean, who knows what's going on after the. Thank you, Nicola and Laurie. More humanitarian aid trucks came in, not enough. It was close to 100. Before the war, it was 450 a day. So obviously that's not enough. The U.S. Navy, there's been a lot of increasing attacks from the Houthis in Yemen, which are this sort of group governing part of Yemen, at least like half of Yemen. And they've been attacking, well, they've been throwing drones at Israel, but they've been throwing drones at maritime shipping in the area. Thank you, Bife. Sort of the Red Sea and going down into sort of going toward the Persian Gulf, off of Saudi Arabia, that sort of region down there. They've been attacking commercial shipping. They're pro-Iranian. Thank you, Alexander. And so they continue to attack commercial shipping, which is a problem. But also, we are now having there was a significant attack against U.S. troops in Iraq this weekend, or maybe in the last 3 days. Let's put it that was the weekend or Monday, and using drones, they injured 3 American troops, 1 soldier critically injured, still alive but critically injured. The U.S. did their usual tit for tat, back and forth, but that's significant. We are waiting to see if Iran gets more dragged. Well, not gets dragged into the war. If Iran drags itself into the war, but the Houthis tied to Iran, the militants in Iraq that are attacking American troops tied to Iran. Just in the last day or two, a spokesperson for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, so Iranian military, whatever, comes out and says that the October 7th attacks on Israel were for retaliation for the American killing of, was it Soleimani? Yeah, Soleimani, a big Iranian general. Remember that Trump killed in 2020. The Iranians are saying the attack on October 7th was retaliation for you killing an Iranian general. That sure sounds like Iran's admitting complicity in the attack, which is a big deal. Hamas turns around and goes, that's not true. Very weird public spat on social media of Iran and Hamas. I mean, kind of crazy, right? Terrorist government and terrorist group arguing with each other. Hamas said, no, we did it for other reasons. So who the hell knows? But I worry that that Iran is getting dragged. Say this correctly. That Iran is dragging itself into this war. They're not getting dragged into the war. They're dragging themselves into the war. And, they're a strong country. They've got Russia backing them. I don't think Russia's going to do much, but it's certainly easier for Israel and easier for the U.S. if Iran is not fighting in the war than if Iran is, right? But Iran is heading that way. Final thing, Erdogan and Turkey compared Netanyahu to Hitler, and then Netanyahu turned around and talked about Turkish genocide against the Kurds, which is correct. There's also Turkish genocide against the Armenians. There's also the Turkish occupation of Greece for 400 years. There's also the Turkish occupation of the Middle East. The Turks have an interesting history with when it comes to freedom and democracy. So I don't like Netanyahu, but he did zing Erdogan back pretty hard, saying, "You're going to lecture me about genocide." Erdogan just being Erdogan. So, all right, guys. All right. Let's do our Q&A. Remember, guys, please do keep the gifts coming, TikTok and YouTube. I need them to pay the bills, quite literally. So thank you. Do I ever chill and have a beer? Yeah. I mean, I kind of did in Arizona when I was gone for a week, except then I got sick, so I couldn't really drink, but I tried. Tried not to drink while I was sick, but thank you, Chris. Yeah, let's do a Q&A, comments, etc., either on Ukraine or I'm so tired. Ukraine or Gaza. Let's talk, guys. Welcome, Mark. Who's been war criming for 70 years? Israel and the Palestinians both. That's easy. Who's stealing body parts? Nobody. Oh, we have a Russian troll. Hey, mods, LB is a Russian troll, by the way. Knock them out. Just so folks know, that's a bit of Russian propaganda from like the 1980s. The Russians in the 1980s posted these claims of these claims, and they're very good at it. They posted these claims that the Americans and Israelis are harvesting organs of kidnapped babies from the Middle East and from Latin America. And they were kidnapping the babies and taking their organs for donating in the US and Israel, people needing organs, right? And Radio Moscow would report it, and they would get it from usually from African news outlets. And what happened was it was the KGB, and the Russians still do it today. The KGB would pay off journalists in Africa, probably Latin America too, but Africa was the big place they like to pay people off. And they'd say, the Nigeria Today reports, right? Nigeria Today, hey Frank, you know what I'm talking about. Nigeria Today reports that Israel has been stealing organs from little babies, right? And Radio Moscow was simply reporting on what the Nigerian paper was saying, except you didn't know that the Nigerian paper was literally paid by the KGB to write the fake article. So that's where she got that from. So that was a Russian troll. Oh yeah, they're not. Russia's not sending us our best here. She almost had. I mean, she was being trolly until she threw in the part about baby parts. Then it was like, okay, hello, Miss, Natasha. Anyway, what else, guys? What else we got? Salut Franck, joyeux Noël à toi aussi. My friend Franck from graduate school is weighing in on LinkedIn. Good to see you. Question that follows, no problem, Cliff. You don't have to be in Russia to be a Russian troll. Thank you, Swan Person, for the hat. I've talked about this before. Why I don't like Netanyahu. I don't think Netanyahu's for peace. I think he's treacherous. I really do. I don't trust him. I think he's I forget the word I was trying to find, smarmy or something, but I just feel like he's I liked him in the 1980s when he was Israel's UN ambassador. I was very impressed with him. But since then, I just feel like he's I didn't like the way he got involved in American politics. He was clearly trying to influence the American elections for Trump in 2016, which I thought was really shitty. And I don't like that. I don't like any country. No country should be doing that. No country should be doing that. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. So not a fan of that. But yeah, I don't like him. I don't trust him. I don't think he cares about peace. Yep, the live was pausing. Is it fine now? I mean, on TikTok at least. It was being evil. Right, and then Cliff, feel free to give me your question there, Cliff. Trying to get my mouse. Oh my god, I won't bring my mouse back. Don't you believe that okay, Cliff's question. Here we go. Cliff has a super chat question. It's pausing on TikTok? Wow, I'm not sure what's going on there. Hang on. Sorry, YouTube. One quick second here. That's weird. I don't know why it's pausing. Very weird. I don't know. TikTok must be hiccuping or something. Huh. I don't know. I know. I talk about Netanyahu and TikTok got mad at me. I doubt it, though. TikTok's a little, if anything, TikTok's overlords are not exactly pro-Israel. Let's put it that way. So Cliff had a question here. Don't you believe that Biden is saying that Ukraine should now seek peace and give up land because of all these conflicts? What Cliff, I think, is saying is there's so much going on now in terms of, Middle East, right? We're worried about Middle East. Now with Israel, we're worried about China, that he wants to wrap up Ukraine. The problem is Biden wanted to wrap up Ukraine from the first day, from my impression. He never, I think, for example, his national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, told Biden from day one and said, China is the big crisis. China is the big war. We shouldn't be worried about Russia and Ukraine. It's just not worth it. That's what I think was going on with Biden. So if anything, I don't think that's new. What you're saying there. I think that's always been Biden's thought, is too much else going on in the world. This doesn't matter. Matt is asking thoughts on Russia outproducing Ukraine on drones. Yeah, it's bad. I mean, people we talk to and stuff we read confirm it. Ukraine is producing more drones, which is great, but Russia's producing even more. All of those Russian drone programs we warned about that were really going to kick in around 1st of January or so, are kicking in. And Russia's got more. They're making a lot of the Iranian drones themselves. It's really bad. It's very bad. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's not good. And Russia's got more manpower, and it's we, like I said, we've do not have a we never had a plan for victory for Ukraine. We had a plan to stop Ukraine from getting overrun by Russia, but we never had a plan for Ukraine to win the war. And we held back weapons they could have used, like longer range weapons, like attack weapons, like the F-16s. Thank you, Lori, for the gift that they've got. The F-16s, the tanks, so many things we held back from Ukraine in the last 2 years. And what a surprise! We now have a stalemate. We now have a stalemate when a bunch of us have been saying all along that Biden's goal was a stalemate. Thank you, running on, for the gift. So Volodymyr was asking, Janovsky was asking about donations. It depends what you mean, Volodymyr. I mean, I take donations to support my work. As folks there said, you can click the little link at the dollar sign at the bottom for giving super chat questions, whatever. You can also just go, if you look on my screen here, I've got aravosis.com. You can go to aravosis.com. It's a link of all of my, it's a link tree link. It's a link of all of my links. You'll find my PayPal. You'll find my Venmo. You'll find my Cash App. You can sort of give through any of those. If you mean donating for me, thank you. I mean, we've done other donations for Ukraine too, but we're not doing any of those like today. But if that's what you mean, thank you for asking. You know, what else we got? More questions, guys? Our questions, guys. Also, I got to tell you, sorry, but somebody's asking a repeated question on TikTok, and stop asking the same question repeatedly because you're going to get banned for that. Thank you, Tom. But also, no one's going to want to answer a question from somebody who's got like a Nazi name. Seriously, that's really creepy. You've literally got like a Nazi title. Like, no. I mean, mods, get rid of them to start with because they've got a Nazi name. That's just screwed up. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I've just noticed it looking at it. I'm like, you really think someone's going to like engage with you? I mean, you're not serious if you're coming here with that stuff. What else we got? What are the F-16s coming? Supposedly, a number, I think 18 or something of the F-16s already came from Netherlands in recent time. But it is not clear to me that that they're coming anytime soon. Send donation in chat. Oh, for asking the question. Oh, I mean, you can of course ask the question anyway. You know what I mean? I'll be happy to answer it. But in terms of donating, people use, on YouTube, they use the dollar sign at the bottom, although some people don't see it. You click the dollar sign and you use super chat. It's called super chat. And you can do it that way. I mean, again, I prefer a donation anyway, but if it's too much trouble, feel free to ask the question anyway. That's how people do it on YouTube. Yeah. Thank you. Well, those are priority questions. Put it that way. I always promise I will answer those. Look at the TikTok screen. Why, Matan? What else is going on? Why won't Egypt and Jordan take any Palestinian refugees? Well, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. Egypt and Jordan claim they don't want to take in any Palestinian refugees because they don't want to depopulate Gaza and make it right for Israel to take it away from them, right? And that's not a bad argument, right? I mean, the concern is, oh, Volodymyr, thank you. Oh, I didn't realize that's what you were signing up as a member. Thank you for that. All right, you signed up for a member, which is a monthly donation. It's not the same thing as the question thing. I don't know if you meant to. I hope you meant to, but thank you for that. In any case, pose a question anyway. I'm happy to ask. I'm happy to answer a question, Volodymyr. Thank you for that. Sorry, what were you saying? I wanted to get back to Volodymyr there on TikTok. Yeah, I don't know what the donation or the super chat for some. I don't know. For some people, it comes up differently, and I don't know why. Again, feel free just to post a question. I appreciate you doing the monthly membership anyway. That's nice of you. Thank you. Oops. All right, I'm already forgetting what I was talking about on. I looked away for a second. It's gone. Matan, I'm not sure what you're asking. What are you asking? Oh, okay. Was that Cliff's question? Okay. Cliff's question was, tell us why or why not the UN could administer Gaza after the war and how they could do that. Oh, sorry. This was the earlier question. So in terms of Jordan and Egypt, they claim they don't want to take in Palestinian refugees from Gaza because they don't want to do the Israelis a favor by letting all the Palestinians leave and then Israel just takes over depopulated land, right? That's not a bad argument. I think it's bullshit. I think what's going on is Egypt, for the last 17 years or so, has had the border with Gaza blockaded. Israel has had the border with blockaded with Gaza, but guess who else has? Egypt. Egypt and Israel both. Israel has the border like on the east and the north. Egypt has the border on the south. Egypt blockaded the border too because it doesn't want them coming over. Because a big part of it is Hamas, which runs Egypt, Gaza, is affiliated with the Islamic Brotherhood, a terrorist group with long ties in Egypt, and they're afraid of them causing trouble. I think similar concerns from Jordan. Jordan already has like 40% of his population is Palestinian. They don't want more coming in. They don't want it. They don't want them. They don't want the refugees. I mean, honestly, in some ways, it's not unlike the refugee discussion in Europe or anywhere else. They don't want them, but they're also worried about the terrorism. They're worried about everything else too. I'm sorry. So Cliff's was tell us why or why not the UN could administer Gaza after the war and how they could do that. I don't know, Cliff. I mean, I really don't know. First of all, the UN doesn't want to administer it long term. You'd want to have some kind of self-administration. The problem is you have a territory. Thank you, TC. You have a territory that is being administered by a terrorist group, and you've got like 4 terrorist groups there. How do you get rid of them? Right? Without military action, how do you get rid of them? How does the UN get rid of these terrorist groups that are currently administering Gaza? So I don't know whether they could run it, to be honest. Right? I mean, maybe. I'd have to think of I don't even know, like, does the UN run countries? I'd have to think about that. I can't think of sort of places recently where the UN has actually run the country like this, right? Like bad people were swept out of power and the UN took over? I don't know. I just don't know. What would be best would be either some Arab countries who don't want to touch it because they don't want to be responsible, or obviously the Palestinians running it themselves if they could do it. And that was the recent idea, was to have this peace proposal. Now, I don't know whether the peace proposal that Hamas shut down from Egypt was a peace proposal to have the Egyptians come in and help, but they wanted to set up democracy where the Palestinians would end up voting. And that would be the best way, but you still got to worry about whether the terrorist groups leave or come back. Because, by the way, Israel's just going to go to war again, right? Doesn't matter if the UN comes in and helps run Gaza. If the terrorists are still there attacking Israel, Israel is going to go in and get the terrorists. So you've got to find some way of basically demilitarizing Gaza, in essence. UN, good luck. Maybe, but I think good luck on that. Danielle, good to see you. Trump was right about one thing. NATO is not carrying its weight. You think? No, I mean, that's interesting. I know all of us here support Ukraine, but does the U.S. really care? Could you remind us why the U.S. should care? Well, I mean, wait, NATO is not carrying its weight, but is it though? I mean, supposedly NATO is providing half the weapons to Ukraine. The U.S. is providing the other half. From all the data we've seen, the U.S., if you look by support for Ukraine by GDP, so in other words, based on the size of the economy, the U.S. has been providing, we're like ranked 13th, give or take. And it's the European countries who have been giving more to Ukraine than we have, looking at the size of the economy. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm not sure if that's true, right? Why the U.S. should care? The problem is you've got to argue about Russia posing a threat to Europe overall, and Biden won't do that. He won't do it. You have to. Biden doesn't want to demonize Russia. I think he wants to work with Putin or some crazy thing after this. And if he accuses Putin of being a warmonger or whatever else, or of, if they win, blah, 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 if they win, it'll be a disaster for Europe. I just think he doesn't want to demonize Putin. So he's not willing to say the truth, which is this guy's committing genocide and this guy is going to move on to the other European countries next. And we're going to have World War II all over again, or the Cold War all over again. Biden doesn't want to demonize Putin, so he won't say it. That's how you need to convince people to care. You need the president and everyone to tell them, these are life and death stakes. This is the Cold War all over again. and you've got Biden playing wishy-washy, and you've got the far right MAGA or they're not even far right. I don't know what they are, right? Are they far right? Are they far left? I don't know what MAGA is, but you've got the MAGA wing of the Republican Party that runs the Republican Party saying, Putin's our friend, Ukraine's evil. So of course the American people are confused, right? One guy's lying to them and the other guy's is telling them mush, in my view. All right. Volodymyr had a question. Here we go. Is there any option Biden doesn't let us win before the election, and how bad Trump would be? I know. I mean, the problem is there's no more aid, right? The U.S. Congress needs to provide the aid. And until the U.S. Congress does that, there isn't any for the U.S. Not isn't any. There's very little for the U.S. to give. I think like there was another 150 million or 250 million today or something. There isn't much left. So it's not Biden not letting Ukraine win before the election. It's if Congress doesn't act, there's no more money for the U.S. to give, period. Money, weapons, whatever, right? So that's the problem. I mean, and honestly, again, I don't see Biden talking about. I see him occasionally bring the issue up, right? But then he kind of lets it go. Where is the steady drumbeat from the Biden administration about how disastrous this is that the Republicans are going to let Putin win the war? I haven't heard about it recently, right? They don't care. I mean, not they don't care, but I think it makes me very upset. No, so that's what I'm worried about with Biden. Biden doesn't want you to win. Biden wants you to tie. At best, Biden wanted you to get back. Maybe the counteroffensive would get back some of your land, but not get back Crimea. He did not want Ukraine to get back Crimea because he thought Putin would get mad and Putin has nuclear weapons, blah, blah, blah. And how bad Trump would be? Probably very bad, but it's interesting with Trump because Trump cares about Trump. So, in his twisted mind, we don't really know where Trump would come down. We know Trump, generally speaking, likes to bow down to Putin. He loves Putin, believes Putin, takes Putin's side over the U.S. Therefore, this is probably pretty bad as far as how Trump would respond to the war. We know Trump previously had defended Putin taking Crimea in the South and said, it's Russian, right? So Trump would probably be pretty bad. By his statements, Trump would be awful. The only saving grace is Trump, a couple months ago, made a comment about how if I were president again, I would end the war immediately. I'd sit Putin down and I'd sit Zelensky down and say, this is the peace deal we're going to do. And if either side said no, if it were Ukraine and they said no, I'd cut them off. And if it was Russia and they said no, I'd tell them, you wait and see the weapons I'm going to give Ukraine. We're going to destroy you. That was interesting to me. Right, that Trump said that. Now, again, Trump's a liar. So I don't mean to be harsh, but it's Trump here, guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. He's a liar, so I wouldn't trust anything he says. You've also got the problem of Trump, partially rightly and partially wrongly, has been criticizing Europe for its support of NATO. Now, European countries have been very bad, many of them, about their support for NATO. As members of NATO, every country is supposed to spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense. A lot of European countries don't. So Trump was right about that. But in terms of Ukraine, the European countries have been spending more than we've been spending by looking at GDP, by looking at the size of the countries. So, Trump is going to claim that the Europeans aren't giving enough, but they are to Ukraine. So the biggest danger right now is that no more money comes to Ukraine at all from the U.S. The second biggest danger is a year off, which is Trump wins. But yeah, Trump is not your friend. Trump is Putin's friend. Trump wants Putin to give him an endless supply. Trump wants Putin to give him 73 virgins, Slavic virgins, basically. I mean, it's bad. No, I think it's very bad. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think it's very bad. What else we got, guys? 613 here. Well, what they did to Cyprus. I mean, Cyprus isn't exactly going well, though. I mean, oops, shit. Oops. I think my TikTok may have just gone off. I hate this. I was trying to get the Okay, TikTok, did you disappear or are you still there? Let's see if it came back. My screen paused because my stupid mouse. Oh my God. My stupid mouse keeps. Oh my God. This is going to drive me crazy. Jesus Christ. Oh, hey, Carrie. Predictions for 2024. Oh God, I hate predictions, Carrie. I don't know. Hold on a second. Is it back again or not, guys? Is it back on TikTok? Okay. Yeah, I was trying. My mouse keeps getting stuck over on. I've got TikTok on my iPad. I've got YouTube on my computer, and my Apple mouse, smartly keeps jumping from my computer to my iPad, which is really cute, but annoying because I don't want it to jump. And once it gets to my iPad, it gets trapped because of TikTok being live. So actually, if I try this, let's see if it goes back. No. Yeah, it's not coming back. So my app keeps getting stuck. My mouse keeps getting stuck over on iPad, and then I move it and it makes the iPad close. And I was like, all right, you guys. Would it be fine if we got nukes back? I mean, Volodymyr, Ukraine should have never given up their nuclear weapons. Clearly, it was a huge mistake. And we promised you, everybody promised you, it was a huge mistake. The problem is getting nuclear weapons back. I don't know how easy it is for Ukraine. And the Russians probably would bomb you if they thought you were getting nukes back, right? I mean, they might nuke you first. So it's a risky business. But if Ukraine were able to get nuclear weapons in a way that Russia didn't know, it would be brilliant for Ukraine, yes. But I don't see that happening is what I fear about, No, I'm with you. It's a disaster right now. It's absolutely a disaster. What can we do to light the fire under Biden? I have no idea. And honestly, all this Israel stuff isn't helping either. Thank you, Super Hornet, for the gift. The Israel stuff isn't helping because now Biden is sitting here worrying about the far left and all the kids that are upset about Gaza. My dog, she's doing fine. She's asleep underneath. Thanks for asking, Timothy. She's doing okay. But Biden's all worried about the Israel critics that I think he's not even thinking of Ukraine right now in terms of the election. I hate predictions, though. No, I mean, I can predict on specific things. I can try to predict, Carrie. I'm not a big fan of. No, your English was good, Volodymyr. I thought. I'm not a big fan of overall. What do you think will be the biggest issues in 2024? That kind of stuff. I'm like, whoa. I've never felt qualified. Not qualified. It just doesn't pop in my head. Who would be a good president? So Volodymyr are having a long discussion here. Who would be a good president, in my opinion? Last question. Doesn't feel like it has to be a question. That's okay. No, it's okay. I don't mind you. I mean, you're Ukrainian. We give you a little leeway in asking questions because, your guys are the special guests. So don't worry, Volodymyr. Vladimir says, who would be a good president? I mean, here's the thing. Okay. If you're just talking about Ukraine, the best presidential candidates out there on Ukraine are Biden's the only one you got on the Democratic side. There's nobody else real running. So it's going to be Biden on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, the good real presidential candidates, Chris Christie, but he's not doing well. Nikki Haley, she's doing okay, but Trump is beating everybody. No screen? You're kidding. Wait, now the screen is screwing up again on TikTok? Sorry, real quick. TikTok's being weird again. What's it doing on TikTok, guys? Do I need to go out and come back or not? Mods? Matan? It's just Matan? Okay, it's just Matan. Matan, it's you. It's you. Sorry, real quick here. Oh, yeah, the candidates. You're right. So Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Mike Pompeo, but didn't he just drop out or something? He had nothing going on, but he was good. Trump is terrible. Vivek is terrible. But Vivek's not doing great. What's his face? DeSantis in Florida is doing terribly. He's very bad on Ukraine, but DeSantis, in some way, he's like Trump, but less smart, even though he's smarter than Trump, but politically less smart. DeSantis just wants to be president. So DeSantis is kind of playing games with his Ukraine stuff. And within 1 month, this was months ago, DeSantis went back and forth 4 different times because he was like, said something negative about Ukraine. And then the foreign policy Republicans complained. So he backtracked. And then the MAGA Republicans complained. So he backtracked again. And he kept changing his view on Ukraine because both sides were beating up on him. Nikki Haley is the what I would say is the best person right now on the Republican side on Ukraine, who's got the best chance, would be Nikki Haley. Yeah, the woman who's running, from the former governor of South Carolina. So, yeah. Best candidate is a whole different question, right? Because then we're talking about our politics and everything else. Right. Vivek just stopped buying ads, so he's not doing well. Sasha. I didn't get Sasha a Christmas present. Maybe I should have. What else, guys? We're not going to go too long because we're already at 6:20 here, but more questions? Yeah, she'll get you an ambassador or something. Thank you, Jonathan, for the gift. What else, guys? Anything else? Kamala is president? I mean, not this time around. Also, I mean, the thing is, and I think people are right about this. Had Biden stepped aside and said, okay, we're going to have, that's not even letting me look here. Had Biden stepped aside, we would have run the risk of having just an all-out war on the Democratic side for his time, especially now. Look at all the crazy stuff going on with Gaza and everything too. It's just like last time. We'd have Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren again. Bernie, I still think Bernie would run again. I mean, so I think it would have been a free-for-all again had Biden not run. I can't pronounce her name correctly. There's no way. Sorry, I'm not gonna. Her name's too hard to pronounce. I'm going to pronounce it the Midwestern way. There's no way to pronounce it the right way. That reminds me of a woman in grad school I knew whose name was Dorothy. And she's like, it's not Dorothy, it's Dorothy. And I'm like, okay, it's Dorothy if you live in Kansas, but literally the name Dorothy doesn't exist in the Midwest, in the United States. I mean, in Chicago. I try, but Dorothy. Dorothy's the way the mother says it. Remember how her grandmother was around, goes, Dorothy, when the tornado's coming? But she was very upset about, like, Dorothy is not my name. I'm like, well, nothing I can do about it. What else here? Oops, sorry, scrolling down here to see what else we got here. Beep. Bernie's not 90. Bernie's old, though. I mean, old-ish. How old is Bernie? 80? Isn't he as old as Biden? Probably, maybe a year younger even. How old is Bernie Sanders? Let's see. 82. Oh, 82. Okay, he's a little older. Well, that's not true. How old is Biden now? Biden's the same, isn't he? 81? How old is Joe Biden? 81. So Biden's 81 and Bernie's 82. Okay, that's it. But yeah, I just think it would be an all-out war yet again of everybody going after everybody. Oh, there's my mouse came back. Yay, my mouse came back. Make sure I didn't miss any questions here. And Daniel, okay, I got you guys. Good. Make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up soon. Anything else here? Beep. The college kids have turned on Bernie over Gaza. I mean, whatever. Whatever. What? Quelle surprise, I'm sorry, but I am not a big fan of the whole new to politics and threatening to walk away. I think young people need like an education in politics. I'm fine with them putting their foot down and demanding their issues or whatever. But, their first issue was getting all their loans forgiven, which I think was selfish and bullshit. And they weren't going to vote. Remember, they weren't going to vote for Biden if he didn't do it. So Biden did it. The Republicans stepped in and screwed it up. And then they blamed Biden. And by the way, Biden still is forgiven even more student loans anyway. He did find some other ways, but they all threatened. Now I read the paper. But Biden said he would forgive our student loans and he didn't, and I'm not voting for him. I saw that the other day and I was like, Biden did. It was the Republicans that blocked it in court, and now Gaza. I'm not going to vote for you over Gaza. I'm sorry. It's the participation trophy thing. In politics, generally speaking, I would say behind closed doors, we got to get every voter we can. But there's also an element of, I'm not a big fan of political terrorists. And I think the guys who already said they weren't going to vote for Biden because of student loans, and now it's Gaza, are going to find another reason in the next 12 months to extort Biden again and hold him hostage. Thank you, Jeremy. They're going to do it again on some other issue. And at some point, they need to grow the F up. and realize you don't get. And oh, by the way, they did it on Bernie too. Remember? Oh, we didn't get Bernie. It was stolen. The election was stolen. We're not going to vote because first we were going to vote because we're going to get Bernie. Oh, these are the same people too who got upset that all the candidates were too old. Remember? I don't want old candidates. I want young candidates. Well, maybe you're not the only people voting. Maybe, I don't know, I'm a little older. I don't have a problem with somebody a little older. You're a little younger, you do. So there's two of us voting, not just you. Yeah, it's what they do, like Kat said. I'm not a fan of it's very participation politics or participation trophy whininess. It really is. I just find it very whiny. Cyprus, I don't know. What were you asking about Cyprus? Well, it does matter if they don't vote because the Electoral College stuff is still based on the popular vote. It's just very convoluted. So in the end, you still want to get more votes if possible. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. MRE's meals ready to eat. I know what that is. Those are the sort of prepackaged dry meals that the military folks carry with them. I don't know. Well, Dopium, I mean, first of all, AOC and Bernie being Marxist. Bernie was a Marxist. AOC, who knows? I think she'd probably call herself a socialist today. Bernie pretends he's not a socialist, but he is. What do you do, though? We only have two big parties in this country. The other parties don't matter. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a problem with them being members of the party. I don't like their politics. They're too far left to me. But AOC, for example, I don't like her politics. I don't think she's crazy. To me, she's not like Tlaib and Omar and those guys who I think are just like, right? AOC, I just don't like her politics, but she's very smart. And Bernie, too. I don't like Bernie's politics, but Bernie plays games, by the way, with whether he's a Democrat or not, right? He always wins as a Democrat, and then he says, now I'm not a Democrat anymore. So there is that. That annoys me. But Bernie, I just don't agree with Bernie on a lot of stuff. But Bernie doesn't. There's no reason Bernie Sanders is, too extreme to be a Democrat. He's just to the left of me. Big deal. And AOC too. I don't like her because she's to the left of me. I mean, she annoys me, but I think she is growing up, as Dawn says. She occasionally the old AOC comes out. You're like, oh, stop it. But I don't have a problem with her being a Democrat, though. She's just way to the left of me. Big deal. I don't want her becoming president. I don't want her running the party. But, who do I agree with the most? Who knows? I really don't know. I wouldn't be able to point to anybody in particular. Because the thing is, I tend to be more conservative on defense. I'm liberal on civil rights, but I'm also realistic on civil rights. Thank you, Flower Lady. I'm also very realistic on civil rights. I'm pro-business in some ways, but I also think when business is acting up, feel free to slap them around, so it kind of depends. But the socialist communist thing drives me nuts, as far as that goes. Am I going to vote? Of course I'm going to vote in the presidential elections. Oh yeah, of course. Not going to say who I'm going to vote for. I don't know what that is. Shoo. Israel, Palestine, the same as Cyprus? Cyprus is funny only because I haven't followed it lately, but I did a whole, not a thesis, but a little mini thesis in graduate school on Cyprus. And from what I recall, my friends, the Greeks, did not have clean hands in Cyprus. I seem to recall the Greeks having a coup and the Turks kind of came in as a result of the coup, but then the Turks, of course, took over and never let go and declared an independent country and this kind of BS. So the Turks are the bad guys, but the Greeks, sadly, the Greeks were not 100% the good guys either. But beyond that, I don't think it helps to compare conflicts, to compare it to Israel and Gaza. Why? I just don't think it helps, LaRouche movement, insane. That's easy. LaRouche movement is absolutely insane. Yeah. I mean, I don't follow them, but they're a cult. They're crazy people. Yeah. So anyway. All right, guys, it's almost 6:30. I'm going to go. Yeah. And Ash has got company anyway, but I'm going to go. Look for me tomorrow. I'll be back at 6 o'clock Eastern time, US tomorrow, 5 o'clock Central Chicago time. We'll be talking more about the same. It's already Wednesday already. My God. Oh, crazy. I've got to set up more auctions too. I haven't set them up since I got back. I've just been so tired. This fucking cold. Like I'm over it now, but I'm just still tired. It just drives me nuts. In any case, I've got my auction stuff actually sitting here. A number of cool things I grabbed, so I'm going to put them up again. So Mustard can bid. I know Mustard was asking for them. I've got them ready, hopefully. But let's come back tomorrow again. Thank you guys for the gifts. I know we had a long time off over the holidays, and then my time in Arizona, but I'm back now. So let's come back tomorrow, 6:00 Eastern, okay? And then we will chat again about the latest. All right. Talk to you later, guys. All right. Have a good night. Thanks for the gifts, and thank you, mods, as always, for keeping things sane. All right. Thanks, guys. Oops. Trying to get there it is. I'm trying to get my mouse back from